the one to break it to you, but sex education in the past failed us. 'Cause birds and bees, they don't fuck! Welcome to Birds and Bees Don't Fuck, a podcast where we learn exactly how bad our formative sex education, or lack thereof, really was. I'm your host, Arielle Zadok. I'm a sex educator, intimacy coordinator, and a whole lot of other things. My guest today is Beowulf Jones. He's a comedian and the producer of Storylines, a hybrid animated live-action storytelling web series. And he's my friend! Welcome, welcome, welcome!
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Congrats on your podcast.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your patience as I figured out all of the tech on this, because it was messy.
Yeah. Okay.
No, here's the thing. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible because I'm a producer, which also means I'm a perfectionist. So the last time I had a podcast, which you were on, thank you so much. You're my first double guest. Ooh, you might even be my only one. I don't know.
Susie was never on your previous podcast?
She wasn't. No, I never got around to Susie.
Okay.
I was on her Act Like a Girl podcast though.
Oh, okay.
I think I asked and it just didn't work out or something like that. But that is why she was the debut of this one.
Much deserved.
And as such, there were some technical issues that we're going to see how I figure out as we go to produce this.
Sure. Well, in your defense, I would like to point out that this whole technical rig we have here, a lot of it you just bought this morning.
Some of it, yeah.
So it's actually a miracle that it's working as well as it is. You are utterly competent.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Oh, this is why you're my friend, and so many other reasons. So, Beowulf, first, let's tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the people who you are, what you do, what you like. Do you like long walks on the beach and shit?
No, I don't like the beach. I don't like the sun. I don't like being outside. I can watch endless footage of Terrence Malick shooting footage of a beach as long as it's inside an air-conditioned theater. But I'm an indoor kid. I was rereading Lord of the Rings recently, and they were talking about how Sauron's goal is to bring darkness through all the land. And I thought to myself, okay, Sauron is not wrong about everything.
Sarong is not wrong. Does he wear a sarong?
Depending on which guise he's in, probably.
Oh, fun.
I'm sure it comes up. He's sort of a shapeshifter.
I mean, there's a lot of costumes in that too. It's ripe for the cosplay.
Yeah, certainly someone's wearing a sarong.
Someone is.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
What is a sarong?
Valid question. A sarong, let's see if I'm going to mess this up. A sarong is basically like a piece of fabric that you see a lot of people wearing at like beaches and stuff like that, and they just kind of tie around their waist for the most part.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of fabric in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of indigenous cultures use sarongs.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of like, what a great segue into gender, because it just kind of goes into the whole gender expression thing where people are like, oh, men wearing skirts. It's like, okay, but depending on where you are in the world and what time period, that's what men wear. So gender is just a social construct.
I was a groomsman in a Bengali wedding, and one of the thank you gifts was a lungi, which it to the untrained eye looks like wearing a skirt, but it's like the most comfortable thing I've ever worn.
I mean, skirts are great. I'm wearing a skirt right now.
I wish I was wearing a skirt. I'm wearing jeans, and a skirt would be better.
Yeah, it's just people think I'm fancy all the time. I'm not. I just like to be comfortable. It's like the best hack ever. If you want to be comfortable, just start wearing skirts. Also, it's great in the summer. You get a little breeze up your whatever you have up there. It's great. My new beautiful black cat, Ruby, is very close to the second camera, which is what... Oh, it's going to be shaken. Oh my God. It's probably shaking right now. She just put... I know that this is not a visual medium, but she just put her paw... She was on the counter. The tripod for the camera is like basically touching the counter. She just kind of put her paw on the tripod to get her down
to brace herself.
To brace herself, to jump onto the table. Oh, sure.
Oh, now
she comes. She's going to mess
She
it
is
up.
about to walk on. She is on camera.
She is.
Ruby knows how to find her light.
Oh, my God. Oh, cat life. Oh, my God. This is not about me or my pussy. Beowulf, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, see, our first international guest.
I come from the land of the Great North, a place known as Canada.
How do I say this? Canada.
Canada. Yeah.
Canada Flintridge.
Canada rhymes with Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Canada.
Yeah.
Great. When I think about Canada, there's a part of me that's like, oh, they probably have good sex education. And then there's a part of me that's like, but they're so nice. Are they like the English that are like super Puritan about things and don't want you to like know anything? And they're like, ooh, body parts, my God. Or are they like, well, you should know about it. Free healthcare.
I think with the British, it's more of like a prim and proper thing.
Yeah.
But no, Canadians are typically nice. I mean, there's some assholes there. I've met them, but yeah, I consider being nice and polite part of my Canadian makeup.
Yeah, I would say that you're nice and polite, in the best of ways, because you're also an honest guy. So, did you go to a public school, private school? What kind of a school did you go to?
I went to a public school, and one thing that kind of irritates me to this day, although I can't blame my parents for making this decision because they probably thought that it was, what would be easiest and best for me. I had the option of being educated kindergarten through 8th grade in either English or French. And, my parents thought it would be best if I was educated in English, and it probably was. But a part of me really wishes that I could have, because you know how when you're young, your brain just like absorbs everything. I could have I could be bilingual with French now.
I feel like that with Hebrew because my dad is Israeli. My mom is Scottish. We grew up in New York, and my dad speaks Hebrew with everybody, but he didn't speak Hebrew with his children. So my mom, and I think that this is just a part of immigrant life and wanting to be normal and wanting to blend in and not wanting to be different. From what my sister has said, my mom didn't want him speaking to us in Hebrew in the house, maybe because that was weird and different and she didn't want us to be weird and different. But we did go to a Hebrew day school where we learned Hebrew half the day, but we weren't like, there was nowhere where we were practicing it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around all that because, to be honest, if I was spoken to in Hebrew as a baby and as a child, I know my grandparents did, but like only to a certain degree, then like I too would know Hebrew right now and it would probably be pretty good at it. I mean, I flow in and out like when I've been to Israel and I studied in college and stuff, but it's so interesting how, I mean, I get it. Parents are always trying to do what's best, like you said, but like it probably would have been better for your brain to have learned both, and same for me. So if you're a parent listening to this, bilingual children. Teach your kids language.
At least give them Duolingo. I mean, Duolingo is better than any foreign language class that I ever took.
Yeah, you've been like rocking and rolling with that, right?
I'm right now on a 216-day streak.
Woo!
Well, I think it sounds impressive, but I tell my friends about it, and they're like, "Oh, that's cute. I'm on a 2,500 million day streak." And
what? Like that's an actual reply that you're getting from people?
A few people I know who are well into the thousands.
My God. Okay.
I should. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
For clarity, I should tell you something. Although I certainly had sexual feelings that I would have liked explained while I was living in Canada, by the time sex ed rolled around, I was in 7th grade in the United States of America.
Oh, okay. So you, as a kid, under 7th grade, what are we, like 12 in 7th grade? Do I not know children?
Let's see. I think. Okay, I know that I was 8 in 3rd grade, 9 in 4th grade, 10 in 5th grade. 12, you got it, yeah.
Oh my God, yay! I won! I was a baby though, so I was probably 11. So you didn't have anything prior to. There was no, nothing. I mean, you're a boy, so I don't know that you would have learned about periods per se, but like there was nothing about that, nothing about wet dreams, nothing to prep you for puberty.
There was George Michael.
Well, he prepped all of us for puberty.
He did. He's the one who opened my eyes to a few things. Because, like, I know it's like, practically a cliche to say this by now, but I don't feel I ever really had a latency period. I remember being in 1st grade and just having Her her name was Jen Litt from Sarnia, Ontario. Jen Litt. I haven't
Shout out.
seen or spoken to you in decades, but
Jen Litt, where are you? Right to the show. Tell us
mm-hmm.
how you're doing. Are you married? Do you have kids? Do you fuck?
Yeah, I had such a huge crush on her, and I had all these feelings towards her that I didn't realize were sexual feelings. Like, not like puppy love feelings, like sexual feelings.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize them. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't do anything with them, but it would have really, if someone could have set me straight on the finer points of what was happening, I would have appreciated it. But my sister was 6 years older than me, and she got George Michael Faith, and one of the big songs on there was "I Want Your Sex."
Yes.
And,
oh my God.
Yeah, and I had no idea what sex was. I had an idea that it was like kissing, but maybe there was a little bit more to it.
Yeah.
And one of the lyrics was, "Sex is natural, sex is fun, sex is best when it's one on one." And then like the music keeps going, and to emphasize the point, George keeps going, "One on one." And this may have been my first joke. No, this may have been my second joke. My first joke was I did an impression of Scrappy Doo to Jen Litt.
Of course you did.
And she laughed, and I was like, "Oh, so funny things make people laugh. All right, I can store that away for later." But the second joke was, my parents are British, and we were in England at the time, and I was listening to it, and I said to my parents, "Sex is best when it's one-on-one." Yeah, because how else are you gonna do it? And
so many ways, sweet child.
Yeah, and my parents just looked at each other, and it was like, "Do you want to tell him?" "No, I don't want to tell him." "Do you want to tell him?" "No, I don't want to tell him." So then they just gave me this creepy look and then just walked off and didn't say anything.
Oh, that sounds so British. That really encompasses.
And it was British people in England at the time.
Oh my God!
So that's double British.
They were like They were like really feeling in their British feels at that point.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when this happened?
This was, I went to England at that point when I was 5, but my 6th birthday occurred during that trip. Mm-hmm. So late 5, early 6.
Okay. So do you remember at that point, because I was a camp counselor for 4 and 5-year-old boys. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, changing those small children for swim and changing them back, like to get to lunch and everything like that.
Oh boy.
These boys just ran around with their penises and touching themselves and touching each other. And it was like straight chaos. And we would just be like, "Please put your clothes on, because if you don't eat, it's going to be a problem for the rest of the day."
Yeah, I don't get that, because I was the same way. Me and Alex and Andrew Haig, the Haig brothers, we were young. We would we would go to the bathroom together, and we would play Don't Cross the Streams, which was, because we saw Ghostbusters, and the thing was Don't Cross the Streams. So we would like have like lightsaber duels with our pee, and it did not seem weird.
Honestly, that sounds so much fun. And as a person who doesn't have a penis, I just feel like there's a lot of fun that I have missed out. But, now they have things like funnels that you can pee into. Mm-hmm. They have all sorts of technology that I would
Wait, there's a pee funnel?
Yeah. Well, there's something in New Zealand called a shiwi, and that's kind of like a funnel. But then my friend was telling me about another one the other day that's kind of like a half tube. It's kind of like a slide, I guess. And that works a little bit better. There's like a little bit of splash if you're peeing real hard, but mostly it's fine. Because the funnel, I guess, if like you're peeing a lot and hard, it can overflow a little bit. So this one, and I got to ask her what it was, because I don't remember the name. And we were up in the mountains at Good Vibes Breakfast Club, and I was like, I'm not going to remember this. And there's no internet up there, which is part of the beauty. Mm-hmm, so maybe when I post this, I'm going to remember, because I will not remember by the end of this episode. So Sarah, if you're listening, please remind me what that thing was. But it's like, she said it was like a little like half cup slide thing, so that people with vulvas can pee while they're standing up, which is something that we've always wanted to do. I would be very interested to see if we could try to cross streams. So if there are any people who have these products out there who would like to send some to me so I can test out what it feels like to pee standing up, please email me at arielzadok@gmail.com.
It wasn't until you said to see if you could cross the streams that I picked up that you were not referring to pee funnels for men. I thought that's
this whole time.
Yeah, I was trying to.
No, a penis is a pee funnel. You don't need a penis.
That's what I thought, but
you maybe need a penis.
But I didn't want to shame anyone. Everyone learns different.
Of
maybe
course.
some boys need pee funnels. But...
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're different. They're different challenges and whatnot. So different people need different accessibility. So that is an interesting thing to look into. I really want to name this episode "I Want Your Sex with Beowulf Jones." Are you okay with that?
If it'll bring me closer to George, then...
It will. Oh my God.
He died on Christmas. How the fuck do you die on Christmas?
Honestly, it was so rude. I mean, and I'm a Jew, so like, I don't even celebrate Christmas except to celebrate like the sparkle trees and I will have you know that today is Greekster, which I suddenly have a lot of Greeks in my life this year, so I'm hyper aware that today is Greek. I can't not say Greekster now. All I want to say is Greekster. Greek Easter, which if you're Greek, they will say it's the real Easter. And I'm a Jew, so it's all fun for me. I'm like, hey, what's the fun thing we get to do today? So
I like that if you go to Greece, they'll be like, no, we know when he really died and showed up 3 days later.
Well, I was talking to someone last week. I was actually, I think, on a date. I don't know. I hope it was a date. Maybe I don't hope it was a date. I don't really know this person that well. Probably shouldn't be saying this on a podcast, but who cares? Anyway, and he was telling me, he was like, oh, well, yeah, like Passover, like when is Greek Easter? What does it align with? The last day of Passover. Have I fact checked this? No, I'm a Jew. I should know this, but I don't because I'm a bad Jew. I hope my parents don't listen. They will never listen to this podcast. I guarantee you.
They'll be like, if I want to hear her, I can just call her.
Yeah, they do not want to hear me talking about sex. But apparently Greek Easter lines up with the last day of Passover. And he was like, well, yeah, how can Jesus be resurrected if Passover isn't over? Because like he would have died too. I don't know. I don't know the logic. I can't repeat this, but it like had to do something with the last day of Passover and that being Greek Easter being the real Easter. And I was like, yeah, cool. That totally makes sense. But this is a podcast about sex.
It is.
We are going in all sorts of directions.
And no one liked to fuck more than Jesus.
No one liked to fuck more than Jesus. It's true. That this is factually true. We can find it in all Bibles.
Wasn't that what made the Scorsese movie so controversial? Not that just that he got off the cross, but like he started a family with Mary Magdalene.
I honestly know nothing of this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the story. I don't know that Scorsese did something.
Yeah, Last Temptation of Christ. Peter Gabriel did the soundtrack, so that's my entry point into it.
Okay. Who is the Last Temptation of Christ? So was Christ like all around town banging and shit?
No,
and I don't just mean on the hammer.
Oh,
hey! We just blew out everybody's eardrums.
Christ was a carpenter, but not like that.
Ayo!
I only saw it once. I think it was a pretty straightforward traditional adaptation. But what happened is when he was on the cross, he had, I think, like sort of a hallucination or a dream of being like, I don't want to die for everyone. I'm just going to get off the cross, be a normal person, get with Mary Magdalene, start a family. And then I think he realized that, he had greater purpose. So he allowed himself to be crucified. But yeah,
I mean that.
I am not religious, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to indoctrinate anyone.
No. And where my head just went to was like, yeah, psychologically, if this story is even true about a person, I mean, they did kill a lot of people on crosses all the time. That was like the MO. They just did that. So. And we would never know what the truth is. We would never know what was going on in that person's head. But your head will go to places like that. Like, I don't want to be this person. Like, why is it me? I just want to live a normal life. And then at some point, the psychosis takes over and it's like, I guess it is me. I have no choice. Please let me fucking die already. I mean, it's torturous. It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly relate to anyone who is being crucified thinking, you know what, this isn't the way.
This is not. I don't know that I signed up for this, guys.
I'm just going to take it easy, have a nice time. But yeah, I'm not trying to indoctrinate. All I know about the crucifixion is from the Arthurian legend because demons created Merlin as revenge against Jesus because according to the legend, when he was the 3 days he was dead, he went down into hell, and it was a big jailbreak, and he freed Adam and Eve and all these other people, and the demons were. It's long, convoluted.
These stories are wild.
Yeah, and in the Arthurian legend, there is plenty of fucking. But again, this is not what the podcast is.
I mean, it's about fucking and how we learn about fucking. And some people maybe learned about fucking through, what is it, Arthurian?
Yeah.
Arthurian. I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to Google some shit after this. But I mean, just to tie it back into sex education, like that is truly how a lot of people have learned about sex, through these like damaging stories of that religion told us, or like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild. So George Michael, first teacher of sex, potentially Jesus, your second teacher. I don't know. So now you're in 7th grade. At this point in your life, now you're in America. You no longer have health insurance or health care.
I have dual citizenship. So the second I get cancer, I'm just going
good for you.
North, right over the border.
I do too, in England in the UK. And if Scotland ever goes away from England, then it will be tied strictly to Scotland, but also in Israel. So like I would have to go and live in those places for a few years before I could take advantage of any of those things. But like, I got options. I am valuable. Anyway.
You're very valuable.
That's okay. Other story. Anyway, so
I'm in it's health class.
You're in health class, but my question is, now you're in 7th grade. Now you're, as we discussed, 12. At this point, have you discovered your penis? Have you had like wet dreams and stuff like that? Like, did you, and you can answer whatever you do or do not feel comfortable. This is a completely consensual podcast. So if you want to breeze right through, breeze on through. Nobody cares. But my main question is really like, had you at that point had to do some learning on your own past George Michael?
I didn't learn so much as I just kind of stumbled into it. I don't remember what was happening the first time or the 10th. I just sort of realized that with certain movement, I felt better than I did before. And it was really weird because there's, before, you start coming, like whenever age that happens, it's just this really weird feeling. It's a great feeling. But I remember the first time I actually ejaculated, I was like, oh, it's all over now. This isn't nearly as good. Now I've got to deal with this.
Oh no. That's right. Because from what I know, as boys, you can be masturbating, jerking off, all of that, but you're not going to actually start ejaculating until you hit a certain age. And really, sometimes nothing really comes out. So I imagine the first time it's pretty fucking scary.
Yeah, well, the first time you brought up wet dreams, the first time I did come, it was during a wet dream. And I do remember it was, in fact, 7th grade. It may have been before or after this health class, because it wasn't like the health class was dedicated to sex ed. There was like just as much time spent on sex ed as like, well, you've got to brush your teeth and make sure that you don't get cavities. It was just a very general thing. And what's kind of funny is the principal of the school, I don't quite remember what his name is, but I believe he used to be Jeffrey Dahmer's health. He taught health at the school Jeffrey Dahmer went to.
Wait, you learned about sex from the same guy that taught Jeffrey Dahmer about sex?
No, I went to a school that had a principal who used to teach a health class that Jeffrey Dahmer was in.
So you're 1 degree separation from Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah. But, I was then, but then obviously I wrote him a lot of letters in prison.
Oh yeah. You formed a relation. Oh, that's right. I do remember when you guys were married for a little while. It was a pretty messy divorce, if I recall, right?
Well, there wasn't too much to contest because he got killed in jail. So
that part,
got everything.
Oh, I thought you guys got divorced before that part.
Well, we were in the process.
Oh yeah. What a relief, huh? So do you remember them teaching you about wet dreams at all? And then you were like, oh, that makes sense. I mean, we didn't have Google, so.
We didn't have Google.
What's a kid to do?
And no, I don't remember them teaching me about wet dreams. What I will say, it was a few weeks ago, we were over here watching Schmigadoon.
Great show, by the way, if you like musicals. Yeah, so fun.
I think it was at the beginning of episode 4 in season 1, where Cecily Strong did it was a play on Do Re Mi, where
I love that song.
where she just talked about how everything works.
Yeah,
that 2 or 3 minute song was a better sex education device than anything I ever had in school.
100%. Every kid needs to hear that song. It was so good and so well done.
I would have done better on the test, but what I'll never forget is they wheeled in, a TV with a VHS, and they hit play, and I was like, "What the fuck am I looking?" With no explanation.
Wow.
No, there was no explanation. No one saying this is what you're about to see. They hit play, and it was like this weird fleshy thing. I'm like, what the fuck am I even looking at? And I'm staring. It was like a Rorschach test that I just couldn't quite piece together, but I found it vaguely uncut. It was like some David Cronenberg body horror thing, but I wasn't old enough to know that David Cronenberg body horror was a thing. And then all of a sudden, this little arm just like comes out of it like the fucking Kool-Aid Man. And like it seems like it's tearing itself out. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this is real footage of a birth.
Yeah.
You can't just show that to a bunch of kids without telling them what it is. And I was horrified. Obviously, what I'd been staring at was, a giant vagina, just like a close up on it. And I don't remember much more of a lesson than that. I think they're like, okay, so that's what that looks like. Moving on. Did we talk about teeth yet?
Wow. I mean, I gotta say, listen, teeth are complicated.
Teeth are complicated.
I'm actually, since we're talking about it, I got a root canal on a tooth a while back, a few years ago, and I bit into something kind of hard yesterday. It was just like like some pasta, like pieces of it, if it's like baked, a little hard. I bit into that yesterday. It like shifted my tooth, and now the whole thing is gray. Yeah. So, I'm dealing with some tooth stuff right now. It's feeling real weird. My brain, my face feels weird. And I'm not digging the fact that I have a gray tooth that is previously bleached. I don't know what's going on in my face, everybody. What is with my face? But
I think you have a lovely face.
Oh my God, thank you. As I make weird faces for those who are watching on the YouTubes.
Yeah, I have the face of like a cartoon clam.
You have a beautiful face. I don't think your face looks like a cartoon clam.
Well, it looks like a beautiful cartoon clam, but it's still a cartoon clam. I guess if you're, this isn't great radio. Oh, but there's a YouTube thing. Yeah.
That's the camera up there that's getting it.
Oh, okay.
We have 2 cameras going. But
yeah. I look like an overgrown Sasquatch with the face of a cartoon clam. That is the way to recognize me.
I wouldn't agree with that, but to each their own.
Okay.
But what I was really coming at was teeth are complicated. Sex is so much more. You need to spend so much more on sexuality and all of the things that come with it and your body and all the things it does.
Yeah, all I walked out of that class knowing was, okay, so that's what it looks like when a baby comes out. I don't know what they do to the vagina afterwards to repair it.
Did you know how it got in there? Like, did you know anything about sex itself by that age?
I knew about fallopian tubes. That's stuck with me because fallopian is kind of a fun thing to say.
Fallopian. Say it with us, everyone. Fallopian.
And I was generally aware that the penis went into the vagina and, sperm meets egg and then something fallopian tubes. That was my entire understanding of how sex works until I was like, I don't know, 20.
Yeah. Oh my God. They just do not prepare these children. Did you ever find any like nudie magazines or anything like that of your dad's? Like
no.
Vibrators of your mom's, like anything?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I didn't. But my parents were very protective about what I watched. Like, you know, I wasn't allowed to watch a PG-13 movie till like the fucking day I turned 13.
Wow.
I remember the first R-rated movie I saw in theaters. It was, this is really going to age me. It was The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox.
Oh.
And I wasn't old enough to see an R-rated movie at the time, but
you rebel.
Well, no, they just loved, or they just knew how much I loved and worshipped Michael J. Fox. But so it's not like I had pop culture that could have like taught me anything. Although I don't know what pop culture would have taught me. It's not like if you know you see a movie where characters are fucking, they're going to be explaining, okay, well now I've ejaculated, and this.
Well, not only that, but especially in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even today. Now it's starting to change, but even if you saw sex in media, it wasn't sex. It was penis and vagina. It was, you know, two people see each other. They're both, oh my God, they're so turned on. And they just like clothes come ripping off, penis goes in, boom, 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 wham, bam. They come at the same time. Everyone is happy and
then
satisfied.
Cut to 9 months later and they're bringing a baby home.
Yeah. All of that is a lie. It's a lie.
Especially the simultaneous orgasm. I don't know who the hell came up with that.
I have had many of those, but just with one partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Only, well, no, maybe, I don't know, but it's hard. It's definitely a hard thing. You have to really be in sync with each other. You have to, and listen, even if you are super duper in sync with each other, our bodies just work in different ways. So that's just like, it's just not that realistic for the standard. For occasionally, sure. For some couples, like, yeah, you can get there. Like that, you know, it was like miraculous, but like I knew exactly how rare that was. So that's also what made it like super valuable. So for us to believe that that's the standard, that people are coming at the same time all the time, that's just like our bodies don't work that way. People with vulvas, their bodies work at a different timeline than people with penises, and you have to find the balance. And for same-sex couples, sure, they may be able to get that to happen a little bit easier, but even so, we're all individuals. So even if it's two penises, two vulvas, whatever, or mixtures of all of it, to expect that different humans are going to consistently come at the same time is wild. It's wild. Like, let's not have that expectation on each other. That's a lot. Let's just let's focus on pleasure. And if it happens to happen in the process of pleasure, that's fucking awesome. That was just a little sidebar I felt I had to make.
Yeah, it was a good bar. Mr. Good Sidebar.
Mr. Good Sidebar. So I'm curious, where do you feel like you really learned about sexuality and you learned about how your body worked and maybe how other people's bodies worked?
Well, there was a period of my life where I worked on Wall Street, and it didn't end up it didn't go as well as it possibly could have. But that was
you weren't the wolf then?
Well, I was, but I'm no longer leader of the pack. But that was really when I sort of like came into, well, no pun intended, but that's sort of where I, you know, had more access and put in more situations where a lot of things that I wasn't used to it could happen, because it's so weird how open, well, I mean, it's not weird for young people, but it's for me to grow up, you know, how sex was viewed in the culture at the time, to like see things like the app Field, where you go on there and people just like tell you what they want.
Imagine that.
I know. It's like, you're saying everything I've lived with in shame for these decades, I could just be open and honest and tell you what like, you want me to just tell you the truth? Like, when has telling the truth worked out?
What a concept. Saying out to the world, this is what I want, this is what turns me on, this is what I'm looking for. Are you able to match me there? Is this something that works for you too? And then find somebody who it works with.
Yeah, and then and then when you meet, you have like, you know, very mature discussions about it, and it's just wild. Um, but no, I felt not necessarily repressed a lot, but like I couldn't really explore things the way that I wanted to. And, you know, even when I wasn't exploring things the way I wanted to, I was still coming. So I was like, okay, well, that's good enough, I
Mm.
guess. I mean, you know, that is the end goal.
Or what we're taught is the end goal anyway.
Oh my God. But do you take it further?
No,
Oh.
but coming isn't necessarily the goal. That's part of like what we've all been taught is that like coming is the goal of sex, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure is the goal of sex, unless you're trying to have kids. And then obviously, like, you know, yes, you do need to ejaculate and have come go in there and everything. But outside of trying to make another human being, pleasure is the goal of sex. And I think we've moved I mean, we were never in that. We're only now starting to understand that that's what it's about. And as a result of pleasure, that's when you're going to climax or come. And sometimes you don't. I mean, I've had exquisite sex with either myself or my partner not actually coming, but it's
Mm-hmm.
been some of the greatest sex because we were in pleasure. And so
Yeah,
yeah, go for it.
No, I'll concede to that. I was equating pleasure and coming as you know, being the same thing.
But that's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as a person with a penis, that's what you're taught.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were having a good time. You were coming left and right.
Coming left and
Coming
right.
here, coming there.
Usually fades to the left a bit, but
oh, great.
So yeah, that was a time where I got to do a lot more exploring than I normally would have, and that's those
Learning
were
on the job.
learning. Those were my halcyon days of yore.
Have you ever like read any books? Were you ever inclined to like dig into information around sex and pleasure at all, or is this something that's like a new concept?
No, not really. Because the way my brain's always worked, I'm just like, the only thing I care about is story.
Mm.
And so if I'm reading a story and, you know, like, I mean, but I didn't really read like, you know, stories with a lot of sex. But I would like get with, I remember when I was like, you know, 18 or 20 or whatever, I would like be with people and be like, how did you know to do that? Just like all those things. How did you know? And she'd always be like, oh, well, I've done a lot of reading. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard the I've done a lot of reading line a lot. So that was, I was more interested in, you know, reading about King Arthur than I was about finding out how my body worked.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty common. For those who do like storytelling, as far as ethical porn goes, I do recommend Erica Lust. Great storytelling, great fucking.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
if we're making plugs, I would also like to mention Isabella Rossellini's Green Porno, where
Oh, I've heard of that.
yeah, it looks like it has the same aesthetic sort of as like fairy tale theater, but Isabella Rossellini dresses up as, you know, bugs and insects and teaches you how different bugs fuck.
Yes, you've sent that to me before.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've heard of it. Yeah. I'm going to hopefully remember to plug that in the show notes because she was so cool. I should add her to my list. Is she alive?
She's
was
alive.
This stuff old? Like how old was it? I don't remember.
She's alive. But she was also in Blue Velvet, which I saw quite young, and that opened my eyes a lot to like, you know, how pain and pleasure and suffering and yeah. I'm you know, not gonna elucidate Blue Velvet, but yeah, that opened my eyes that other people think differently.
Do you feel like that was, in terms of visual media, one of the bigger, like we know George Michael,
Mm-hmm.
he was the audible media, the music. Do you feel like in terms of visual media that was something that had a big impact on you learning about sex and relationships?
It certainly made me learn about fetish and you know, how some people could consider, you know, abuse to be erotic. But I don't. I don't know how honest the depiction was. I'm not saying it was a dishonest depiction, but I remember, if we're talking about David Lynch, I remember watching Mulholland Drive with a friend of mine, and she was talking about the lesbian scenes in that, and she was like, it was so obvious that was directed by a man.
Mm.
And when Mulholland Drive came out, that was still during a period of time where just the fact that, two women would have sex with each other is like, what? You're going to put that in a movie?
How?
Like, yeah, what is this, science fiction?
Yeah.
Two women? There's not even a man in there?
There's not even a penis. How are they going to have sex?
Like, did they get turned on to each other because they're arguing about a man? What is the motivation here?
Where's the cat?
Yeah. So I was obviously watching it through the lens of a very, male dominant point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly taught me a lot. I mean, Blue Velvet came out in, like, I think, '86, and there's still people to this day who will be like, how can you even defend that movie?
Ooh, I have to see it. There's so many films, so many.
It might be Laura Dern's first movie, so
really,
yeah, watch it just for that.
Yeah, I am curious because I want more context for at least this conversation for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then you can watch it and be like, Beowulf, that's not what that movie was trying to do at all. You have misunderstood everything. I've put together a PowerPoint presentation. Come over and I will explain to you what Blue Velvet is really about.
Yeah. No, I think you raise a really good point about the male gaze and just generally how we've always seen sex in movies and in television. And it's always been through the male gaze. And thank God now we have intimacy coordinators.
Yes, we do.
And we have
I'm sitting with one right now.
Yeah. And we have consultants that can come on board and make sure that our storytelling is accurate. And that work starts as early as the writer's room.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at studios, the right studios are doing the right work to bring in the right consultants to support the writer's room in making sure that they have the right tools and resources to be dealing with the type of content that they're dealing with in a way that's authentic and fair and equitable and all of that. Not everyone is there. Not every writer's room is there. But for the showrunners and the studios and the production executives that care, and the creative executives that care and want to make a difference and want to tell authentic stories, consultants are there. Sexuality consultants are there. Intimacy coordinators are there on set helping choreograph things and making sure that things are accurate and obviously consensual, that everything is expected. And I mean, we're not going to talk about that now, but
it's long overdue.
It is long overdue. It's long overdue. And having that depicted in a way that's authentic to the people who live that life in real life is so important. It's so important.
And for the mental health of the people working on set, like, I still bristle when I hear actors complaining about intimacy corners. Like, it takes the spontaneity out of the, like, what spontaneity?
No.
You're told to, like, walk over to the table, then sit down, wait a few. I mean, nothing is spontaneous.
Nothing is spontaneous.
That's where the acting comes in.
Exactly. And here's the thing also. Intimacy coordinators aren't choreographing every single piece of a scene unless that is what the actors and the director want to do. What they might do, depending on the group that they're working with and everyone's boundaries and comfort levels and consent, is give framework for where can we touch, how can we touch, what is the pacing, what is the pressure, where are things going. It's more about making sure that everyone is clear and comfortable on exactly what's going on, and that there are no surprises. We don't want surprises in intimacy scenes. We want to know exactly what's happening, exactly what's being shot, exactly what hand is going where, what lip is going where. And there is room, of course, for people to play around in that. We're not trying to come in here and tell people who've been doing this for years and years and years that they have to follow everything that we're saying. It's about making sure that everyone is comfortable and clear over what is happening in the scene and what the boundaries are. And, there's so much of that, because when people feel safe, they can perform to the highest level of their abilities. And that's what we want on every set, in every sense of the safety word. Mm-hmm. We want people to feel safe and secure so that they can work and perform to the highest level of their abilities, because all of us are coming together to create something great.
Yeah, and I think it, it opens up the door to more storytelling on how you can use sex in a work. Like there's a recent episode of Yellow Jackets where they were juxtaposing a character, Travis, if you're watching, having sex with Natalie, juxtaposing that with him, sort of looking at Lottie as salvation. And when with both scenarios, like the predominant thing was intimacy, but it was like the way they filmed it, they made it really clear that he was having like intimacy with this one character was sex, and then intimacy with another character was just like his fantasies of salvation. And I don't know. I just thought that it brought a lot of nuance that maybe you wouldn't, or one normally wouldn't see like 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I work with male clients, and something that comes up with men or people who identify as men is that a lot of times people, they think that intimacy is sex, but that's one small part of intimacy. We experience intimacy in so many different ways, in so many different relationships in our life, that sexual experiences and sexual contact is just one way to experience intimacy. But intimacy is so much wider and vaster than that. So I don't watch Yellow Jackets. I would like to. I don't think I have whatever.
It's on Showtime. My Showtime account is practically a timeshare right now.
Oh, great!
Like scheduling people to watch Yellow Jackets. Like I want to bring.
Add me to the roster, baby.
It's so good.
Oh, Beowulf! It's time for a pop quiz.
Oh, jeepers! I didn't know about this part of the podcast.
Yeah, no one does until they start listening, if they listen. So,
oh boy, I'm about to be embarrassed.
Well, no, this is not for embarrassment. This is just to prove the point that all of us need sex education. How many days can sperm live in the body?
3. Oh wait, yeah. You mean like in a woman's body?
In a person with a uterus's body, yes.
Yeah, 3.
Wrong. Close. 5.
Okay.
It might die in 3, but 5 days is the maximum amount of days. I don't know. Excuse me.
Just in my defense, 3 is kind of a curvy number, and 5 is also a curvy way that a 3 does. So I pretty much got that one right.
Yeah, totally. I'm actually impressed that was a pretty good guess.
Thank you.
It was. Thank you so much for coming on.
That was the entire pop quiz.
That's the entire pop quiz. Listen, I'm not. It's a 1-question pop quiz, because if I start giving people all sorts of pop quizzes, then I can never run out of questions. Let's be honest. Sex is vast. But it's just like it's a cheeky little 1-question pop quiz, just to get the brain working.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my brain's working.
Yeah, but word to the wise. Sperm can live in the body for 5 days. So it's important to know what your fertility window is, because if you've got sperm living in your body for 5 days and then you ovulate within those 5 days, that's when you're going to get pregnant. So even if you ovulate 5 days after you have sperm in your body, that sperm can impregnate you.
Before we go, can I ask you a question about your perception of how sex is handled in pop culture?
Sure.
How do you feel about men writing female main characters who writing? Okay, I'm reading a Stephen King book right now, and the main character is having a heavy period. And it's just like, I keep reading stuff like, wow, well, I thought this was a heavy period, but this is Niagara Falls. And how do you feel about stuff like, periods written by male authors?
I think that all of us have the capacity to write about different genders and different experiences. But I think it's really important that we're working with consultants, that we're fact checking, that we know what the fuck we're talking about when we're doing that. So in the case of a character having a heavy period and then being like, well, shit, I thought my periods were heavy, but this is fucking Niagara Falls. that does happen. Like
Okay.
you can have periods sometimes that are like, wow, this uterine lining is really fucking coming out. And everyone's periods are a little bit different. Generally speaking, you know what your cycle is going to be. Not everyone. I mean, there are a whole plethora of different issues and levels of periods and types of periods. Some people have them really light, some people have them really heavy. Some people have it completely inconsistently. There's a whole lot of stuff going on when it comes to periods. But I think a person who gets a period saying, well, I usually get heavy periods, but Jesus Christ, this is fucking Niagara Falls. Yeah, that I think that's a reasonable thing to say.
Okay. I'm wondering if like he just checks that stuff with his wife Tabitha. Like, would you just read that over and make sure that it?
I would hope that he or any person with a penis who's writing about a person with a vulva is going to spot check a little bit. I mean, I know if I'm just my own experience, if I'm writing about men or writing about penises or anything like that, and when I might say men, that also encompasses trans men.
Of course.
I'm going to make sure that I know what the fuck I'm talking about and that I'm fact checking a little bit. So, you know, you got to know what you're talking about. And we're all going to make mistakes and we have to do that gracefully. But I think when we're building characters and we're storytelling, it's really important for storytellers to look to consultants, look to experts, work with the partners who are out here in the world doing the work to make sure that we are telling authentic stories, because I think it's really, really important that people see themselves in an authentic way or read themselves or hear themselves in an authentic way. And they're not just consumed with bullshit of the human experience, which is why I'm so happy that intimacy coordinating is here and that we are bringing it to the forefront more. And we're seeing more consultants, we're seeing more kink and BDSM consultants, and people are putting more care and people want to see that more because authenticity is so important in storytelling. Art imitates life and life imitates art and all those things. And if we're telling it wrong, we're giving people the wrong messages. And that can be really, really damaging. And it has been really, really damaging. Great question.
Thank you. Great pop quiz.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Oh, I suppose you can go watch Storylines at storylines.tv. It's I'm really proud of it. It was expertly directed and animated by Josh Shane, and that's I guess if you're getting the Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight next Saturday and you live in LA and want me to come watch it at your place, you can let me know about that too.
This is going to air in like June.
Okay.
I think this is going to come out June 7th. Here's a little peek behind the curtains. I am batching my episodes and trying to be smart so that you listeners have stuff to listen to without me getting busy.
Okay, well, this comes out in June. You can invite me to the rematch.
Yeah. Wait, can you tell people about your Twitter account real quick?
Oh, well, I have two. Are you...
Your boxing one is what I'm talking. I mean, you can tell them about both. Tell them where to follow you. We're going to get to that part, but I since we're on boxing, I want you specifically to note the boxing.
Oh my God, you're asking me to talk about boxing? What is this, Christmas?
We are at the end of the episode, so I'm asking you to share with the people the information of this account.
Okay, well, real quick, I love boxing. I'm obsessed with boxing. It's the only sport I care about. And a lot of people are like, oh, you like boxing, so you probably like MMA or wrestling. Nope, I don't. Just boxing. But my dream is to be a boxing judge, not a ref, a judge. I have years worth of notebooks where I've scored every fight that I've watched. And I have a separate Twitter account for boxing, which let me look up the...
It's a funny name, if I recall.
Oh my God. Why not?
Wow.
Hold on. You can edit out the pause, right?
I mean, I can do those things. Actually, now is a good time to plug riverside.fm, where you can record your podcast and edit based on the transcripts. And I'm using a second camera. We're going to see how it goes. It's a little bit tough because I'm doing the music at the same time. We're going to see if I have to edit this afterwards. But the goal is that I don't have to edit anything and I could just record and have fun and deuces until y'all sponsor me enough to have a producer or an editor or someone who can do all this stuff for me, please. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you if you're still sticking around to hear me talk about boxing, because nobody ever asked me to talk about boxing. My Twitter handle is I don't know boxing, or at I don't know boxing, and the name of the account is guy who doesn't understand boxing. Because before I got a boxing account, I would just read boxing Twitter, and half the responses would be like, you don't know anything about boxing, you're a casual, you don't know boxing. So I thought, I could head them off by having that as my handle.
Love it.
So they couldn't say that to me. And I did, and not once has anyone ever accused me of not knowing anything about boxing.
I love that.
And but yeah, I have I have relatively few boxing followers on my boxing Twitter, but they're all people I don't know, with the exception of like you and one other person who's being supportive. And it's really weird because boxing fans are not the most progressive people on the planet. Like I end up blocking just about every single person on boxing Twitter. And like I remember my first boxing friend that I made on Twitter, his name was Joseph. He was like the first boxing person who I had found who was like progressive enough that he was like very supportive of trans rights and whatnot. He lives in Scotland. I had to go to I had to go to Scotland to find someone with my value. Except some of the people who do commentary on boxing events, they've been very nice to me. And what I really like is when I'm watching a show on like say DAZN or something, and one of the commentators says something, I'll tweet about it, and then I'll see like between rounds on a live show, they will retweet me. Fun. And yeah, it's nice. I just I love boxing so much.
That's great. Yeah. Where else can the people find you that's not boxing?
You can find me on Twitter at I am Beowulf Jones. You can find me on Instagram at Beowulf Jones. You can find me in Los Angeles. You can find me writing a lot of short stories that I don't know will ever see the light of day. You can find me at Arby's getting mozzarella sticks.
Mozzie sticks for the win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for coming. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, give me a 5-star review, nominate someone to be on this podcast. Why don't you suggest something that I can ask a guest as a pop quiz question? If it's good, I'll read it out loud. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to make an attempt to play us out with the music. Just remember, birds and bees, don't fuck. Is this playing? It's playing. Here we go. We're going to try it. Hey.